The Where Our Minds Wander podcast may contain sensitive content and explicit language. Listener discretion is advised. Greetings, fellow wanderers, to the places our minds wander.
The house at the end of the dirt road, where disembodied voices whisper and strange sounds make the living shiver.
Where shadows lurk at the edge of the woods, just outside your back door. And mysterious lights speed beyond reason across the clear night sky.
Odd events throughout time that lead you down the rabbit hole.
I'm Wes.
And I'm Beth.
And this is Where Our Minds Wander. Hello and welcome to Where Our Minds Wander, all you fellow wanderers. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, everybody. We want to say we were a little remiss last week because we forgot to wish all you moms out there a happy Mother's Day. But now that it's gone by, we hope you all had a wonderful day.
Yeah, how did you miss that, Beth? I mean, it was Mother's Day and you're a mom, and it was my birthday.
Well, I didn't forget your birthday.
No, you didn't?
I didn't announce it to all of our listeners, but I certainly didn't forget it. And speaking of forgetting, if you've been thinking for a while that you should try to find us on Facebook and you haven't yet, I would strongly suggest that you do join our Facebook page because we have the best Facebook followers. And we just want to give a little shout out to William Burlingham IV for taking the time to like a lot of the stuff that we post because we really appreciate it.
Yeah, we really do.
And we also post pictures every week that's related to the upcoming episodes, so you can kind of get a visual of what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, I have to say, we have some of the best Facebook followers.
We do. They're all kind and nice, and it's great. It's like a little family.
That it is. Well, anything else you want to mention before we get into this episode?
Yes, actually. We also wanted to give a shout out to Browning John for a really wonderful review that he left for us on Spotify.
Yeah, it was really nice. We haven't gotten a review in a long time, or a comment.
Yeah, so if you have some time, we would appreciate those too. It doesn't take very long. And, 5 stars and any sort of comment. And it really helps us.
Hell, you could put in a recipe of your favorite dish. It doesn't matter. It still helps us climb up in the ranks on the charts.
I don't know why, but it does.
Yeah, we got to say we don't understand the analytics of it all, just how these platforms rate moving up on the list. And there's a lot of people out there that are professionals that really don't get it either. But it seems to work. 5-star rating and a comment of any kind helps you move up. So new people can follow us. And with that said, I think we've rambled at them a bit much.
I know.
But we never do any housekeeping. We try to keep it simple and right into our stories. But once in a while, we do have to mention our TeePublic store, our website, all those things, so that you know they exist.
Sometimes I forget they exist.
It's nice, though, when you get a sale, isn't it?
It is. We're so excited. Yeah, it's definitely nice.
And don't forget those premium bonus content episodes. They're only $3.
And there's quite a few of them.
That there is.
And they're a little bit different than our regular episodes, some of them, because they're not specifically supernatural, but they're all definitely weird.
Yeah, and they're a little bit more lighthearted. We have a little bit more fun during those.
Us have more fun?
I know, it's hard to believe. After the last 2 nights, it's hard to believe that we could have any more fun.
Your birthday celebration lasted a whole weekend.
It was awesome. For a 62-year-old guy, I can still drink my moonshine mixed with Gatorade.
Everybody out there is going, ew.
But it rehydrates you.
Well, that's our theory anyway.
Yeah. All right. With that said, why don't we get into tonight's episode? Beth is going to start us off.
Yes, I am. Are you ready?
Well, that's why I'm looking at you.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let's go.
Some people say the strange creature stands about 5 feet tall. It has the face of a monkey, the tail of a beaver, glowing eyes, and is covered in shaggy white fur. Others say the strange creature can be anywhere from 3 to 6 feet tall. It has the face of a baboon, pointed ears, and a long tail. Sometimes the tail is hairless, and sometimes it's covered in short black fur. But the rest of the creature's body is light brown. It's sometimes bipedal, and yet it also walks just as well on all fours. Either way, it leaves behind these bizarre foot-long tracks with just 3 rounded toes. It's been known to hoot, howl, whistle, and scream. This menacing, aggressive animal that stalks all parts of North America is known as the devil monkey. And no matter which version you might see, beware, because the devil monkey will attack anything: livestock, pets, and even humans. Now, during one of our recent episodes, during the Who'da Thunk It in the middle, I had talked about a bunch of monkeys that floated on rafts made out of vegetation from Africa all the way to South America 35 million years ago. These seafaring primates absolutely thrived in South America. But as far as we know, they never traveled further north. They didn't need to. They'd found a perfect new world for themselves. Christopher Columbus met some of these first monkeys' descendants during his 3rd voyage to Venezuela in 1498. But scientists, especially primatologists, have insisted that no monkeys ever trekked above Central America. So there shouldn't be a single monkey in North America, unless, of course, they're in a zoo.
Or they escaped from a circus.
Well, that's true.
It does happen.
Well, I was thinking about that while I was researching this episode, because in our 13 Creepy Urban Legends book,
Yes.
I think we did a story about monkeys that escaped from a circus car that derailed and how they were in the woods,
Yep.
even to this day.
It happens. It still happens to this day.
Well, it is weird that they say that there's not supposed to be any monkeys in North America, because native North American cultures have been telling legends about not just devil monkeys, but monkey men for centuries. According to mysteriesofcanada.com, several monkey man myths were told in both Alaska and Canada's Yukon Territory. The Ahtna people of southeastern Alaska have stories about long-tailed men who preferred to live in caves. They walked on their hind legs, and they sort of looked like humans, but they were covered in long hair, except for their faces and hands. And, as I mentioned, they had very long tails. They pretty much stuck to their caves, and they weren't really a problem until some of the Ahtna started to go missing. In the early 1900s, a half-Dene Episcopalian missionary named Reverend White said that one day a stray dog carried a fishtail into camp. The Ahtna were strictly caribou hunters, and so they were curious about who might be fishing so close to their camp. A welcome party formed, and they rode out to greet their new neighbors. They never came back. Over the next several months, Ahtna children went missing, and then some of the women who had gone berry picking. Before long, Atna men began to vanish too. One day, a panicked hunter returned to camp, claiming that he had seen a man-like creature with a long tail perched up in a tree. Perhaps this creature had been kidnapping their people. One brave warrior stepped forward and said he wasn't afraid of this creature. He would hunt it down and kill it. First, the warrior came across some weird three-toed tracks, which he followed to a small hill on the Tanada Creek of Alaska. A dozen monkey men dotted this hill, and the warrior watched as they used their long tails to propel themselves forward. Wanting a better look, he climbed a tree and was able to see them playing some sort of game where they passed a ball back and forth and made hideous shrieking noises. The warrior froze in terror when he realized that the ball they were playing with was one of his people's heads. He was able to follow the monkey men undetected to a series of caves where they took shelter as it began to rain. Convinced that the monkey men were killing his people, the warrior returned to camp as fast as he could and told the Atna that they needed to mount a surprise attack. As the band approached the monkey men's caves, they had to walk around scattered human bones. The attack was fierce and brutal. The Atna women lit torches and stuffed them into the caves. As the monkey people fled from their smoke-filled homes, the Atna men were waiting, with spears, arrows, and clubs. They didn't stop until every single monkey man was dead. Apparently, according to mysteriesofcanada.com, the monkey men's former home was actually discovered in 1939, and 30 rectangular pits were excavated. Hoping to find some sort of proof, the archaeologists were kind of disheartened to find nothing more than burnt pieces of charcoal. But it seems like the Atna may not have killed every single monkey man like they thought, and it also seemed like the creatures had migrated south, because in March of 1946, Hoosier Folklore magazine ran an article about some recent sightings. Apparently, in 1941, a Reverend Marsh Harpole was squirrel hunting along Gum Creek near Mount Vernon, Illinois, when a frightening creature jumped out of a tree at him. He said it looked like a baboon, and once it landed on all fours, it stood up and walked towards him. It got close enough that the Reverend was able to whack it on the head with the barrel of his gun, and he had time to fire several warning shots into the air. The monkey man, or devil monkey, ran off. Not long after that, local farmers began hearing blood-curdling shrieks in the middle of the night and seeing strange tracks during the day. In Bonnie, Illinois, one farmer lost his dog to a predator he couldn't identify. One witness said he watched a strange creature bound across the road one night near the Big Muddy River, and another witness saw the three-toed tracks along the West Okaw River, further north. As more witnesses came forward, they all described the same thing. This creature, whatever it was, used its long tail to hop like a kangaroo.
Well, that's messed up. But you know what? Probably the best thing is that this thing can't fly. Can you imagine if it had wings?
It would be terrifying.
It really would.
I didn't think of that. That would really add a whole other level of terror. Now, despite several devil monkey hunting parties during this time, no one was able to catch or shoot the creature. Cryptozoologist Chad Arment described even more devil monkey encounters that took place in 1959 in an article published in Volume 2 of the North American Biofortean Review. Only this time the devil monkeys, or monkey, was in Saltville, Virginia. As Paulette Boyd's parents were driving down a rural road, they had a nasty surprise. Out of nowhere, a devil monkey jumped out of a ditch and slammed into the passenger side window of their car, leaving deep scratches in the paint. The impact barely startled the creature because it loped alongside the car for several seconds and then chased after them when Paulette's father hit the gas. Paulette's mother said the creature had, quote, light, taffy-colored hair with a white blaze down its neck and underbelly. It stood on two large, well-muscled back legs and had shorter front legs or arms, end quote. She didn't, however, see any tail. After driving for a while, Paulette's father pulled out his revolver and thought about going back to shoot it, but her mother convinced him not to. DeathCookie.com adds that in 1966, two nurses driving in the Saltville area in the early morning were also chased by a monkey-like creature that kept pace with them for quite a while, jumped on their car, and tore the convertible roof right off of it before they managed to get away.
Now that does sound like a monkey, because I don't know about any of you out there, but I've been to parks where you just drive your cars through and they have all the animals walking around, like Park Safari used to have that, remember? And the monkeys would rip convertibles tops right off them. Not only that, but I've seen them rip antennas off. They get pretty nasty.
Yeah, they can be a little aggressive.
Yeah, that they can. And quite a few years after that, I guess they decided it wasn't such a good idea to let the monkeys free around the cars like that, where they're doing so much damage.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Now it's just camels and things like that that poke their heads in and spit all over you.
I'd rather have a camel spit on me than a monkey rip the antenna off my car.
Right, but it was entertaining.
You know, with all the descriptions of the devil monkeys, they always sound to me like lemurs.
Yeah, somewhat. But they're tiny.
Yeah, and these are like 5, 6, and in some cases even taller than 6 feet.
Yeah, they definitely sound kangaroo-like. Pretty terrifying.
Yeah. Well, at this time in Saltville, the locals did bring out tracking dogs. And even though the trained dogs found some 3-toed tracks and a scent pretty easily, they refused to follow it. This devil monkey was about 3 feet tall, covered in shaggy, graying brown fur, had pointed ears, and hind legs that were longer than its front legs. It also had a long, hairless tail like a possum's. Now, remember earlier how I said that no monkeys are supposed to live in North America? Well, that's not exactly true. They did once upon a time. There was a monkey species once upon a time known as Egmawa chashala. They were a foot tall and weighed about 5 pounds, and they resembled a lemur. Fossil evidence has actually been found in numerous states, including South Dakota, Nebraska, Oregon, and Texas. But they went extinct about 16 million years ago. So far, none of those states match up with our devil monkey sightings. But in an interesting coincidence, MysteriesOfCanada.com says that when Paulette Boyd's mother saw an article on these fossils, she remarked that the drawing that went with it of what this creature looked exactly like the devil monkey that had rammed into their car years before. By 1970, devil monkeys were included in Bigfoot literature, like Canadian journalist John Willison Green's book, Year of the Sasquatch. In the book, he tells the tale of Gordon Ferrier, who claimed to have encountered a devil monkey in May of 1969. He was boarding at the time at Paul and Norma Grattan's house on No Name Road, a little south of the Mamquam Bridge near Squamish, British Columbia. A window screen had mysteriously been ripped open at the house, and Ferrier claimed he saw a brownish-red, monkey-like creature with a long, bushy tail take off across the road and disappear in the brush. Norma Grattan was so disturbed by the incident that the following day she took her children and stayed at a friend's house. While she was gone, the devil monkey apparently broke into the house through a window, probably the broken one, and left a pile of moss on the kitchen floor. It's better than any other sorts of piles of things it could have left.
Well, yeah. Monkeys are known to play with their feces and throw them at people.
Can you imagine finding a big giant pile of devil monkey poop on your floor? I think you got off easy with just moss. A week later, at around 6:15 in the morning, Ferrier looked up from the dining room table to see the creature standing in the window. He said it had a face like a pushed-in Pekingese dog, pointed ears, and reddish-brown fur. Ferrier yelled for Paul Grattan, who got in the dining room fast enough to catch a glimpse of the thing, too. That was more than enough for Grattan and Ferrier to go outside and look for this thing. But all they found were deep foot impressions in the dirt. First, they were three-toed and about 15 inches long. And second, they were such deep impressions that the men estimated that the 6-foot-tall devil monkey weighed about 300 pounds. Mrs. Grattan called the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, who arrived at the Grattan house both openly skeptical and unwilling to listen. But, interestingly, they did take the time to make several plaster casts of the strange tracks. And once the plaster had set, and they had their casts, the Mounties destroyed the footprints with the Grattan's rake. They also told them to fill a bag with bread soaked in honey and hang it in a tree to see if the, quote, bear came back. Which is so interesting to me because if the Mounties thought that it was just a bear, why did they bother taking plaster casts of the footprints and then destroying them? The Grattans did hang a bag in the tree, just to be sure, and nothing, not even a bear, ever disturbed that bag. And then we come to the 1970s, and the devil monkey that came to be known as the Belt Road Booger, which Wes will tell you all about after this quick break. Hey, did you know? When you're out and about, you just never know what you might find. It just might be the discovery of a lifetime. Like 9-year-old Jude Sparks, who was exploring the Orange Mountains of New Mexico with his family. Sparks tripped over something that his brother said was just a dead, bloated cow. It turned out to be a stegomastodon fossil from 1.2 million years ago. And then there was British plumber Steve Etches, who recently discovered the fossil of a previously unknown swimming dinosaur, on the beaches of Kimmeridge Bay in Dorset. And finally, what about Osman Aram, who pulled up his fishing net last month from Lake Iznik in Turkey to see something glimmering in his net? It turned out to be a Roman-era trident. Who'd have thunk it?
All right, we're back, and I get to tell all of you about the Belt Road Booger of Georgia. But before I get into that, there was one more earlier sighting in 1973. Cryptozoologist Lauren Coleman interviewed quite a few families in Enfield, Illinois that year, including the McDaniel family. Their story was that during one night in April of that year, the McDaniel children ran to their parents because they swore a really weird animal kept scratching at the front door. Mr. McDaniel didn't hear anything, but he went outside to check, especially since his children seemed downright terrified. He even got out his handgun and told his kids he'd wait for the creature to come back. And needless to say, he was pretty surprised when it actually did. It was about 4.5 feet tall and covered in gray fur. Its upper body and arms seemed disproportionately short, and Mr. McDaniel insisted that it had 3 legs. You can kind of assume that maybe he mistook a tail for a leg. But what really amazed him is that even though he shot at it, it didn't seem fazed by the bullet wound at all, and managed to leap out of the garden by jumping 5 meters at a time. That's 16.5 inches. And not long after that, the Enfield devil monkey was Georgia's Belt Road Booger. Now, the Belt Road Booger is also known as the Belk Road Booger because the road where it was spotted all throughout the 1970s has both names. According to Cryptomundo.com, the Times-Herald ran the following headline on August 9, 1979. Strange creature seen here. Move over, Sasquatch, Bigfoot, the Abominable Snowman, and the Loch Ness Monster. Make room for the Belt Road Booger. The article went on to say that a witness described the creature as dark and that it stood about 5 feet tall. Its face was monkey-like, but it had a long bushy tail, but wide like a beaver's. Its eyes shone like diamonds if you aimed a flashlight at it. Another witness described it as, quote, the ugliest looking thing I've ever seen, and it apparently liked fruits and vegetables. Witness Nancy Jackson said that the Belt Road Booger had taken a chunk out of an ear of corn from her garden. Another time, she caught it digging around in her flower garden, as if it wanted to kill her caladiums. And then one morning, while she was hanging some washing on the clothesline, the creature ate part of an apple and then threw it at her. That was the last straw for Mrs. Jackson. She called the Noonan Police Department and told them to come do something about it. The police did investigate. They even looked at the apple that had been thrown at her. But all they really commented on was about the abundance of dog tracks in her yard. And yet, reports about the Belt Road Booger came in from Smoky Road and Ishman-Ballard Road, a radius of several miles. Other witnesses said that they believed that the Belt Road Booger was sheltering in an abandoned barn, while others claimed he or she was hiding out in an old junkyard. After a few weeks, the sightings died down, and the Belt Road Booger must have moved on. But devil monkey sightings in general just kept coming, even through the 1990s and the 2000s. According to mysteriesofcanada.com, in 1992, a man named Ian Harper claimed to have come face-to-face with a, quote, big white monkey near Lake Scugog in Ontario. It wasn't mentioned if they were on the road or off the road at the time. But out of nowhere, a 3-foot-tall, big-headed, willowy-armed creature appeared just in front of them. Harper's dog went into attack mode, and the devil monkey simply stood up on 2 feet and let out a deep, chest-rumbling grunt before turning around and taking off. SpookyAppalachia.com says that 2 years later, in 1994, an Ohio woman was driving near Roanoke, Virginia, on her way to the Outer Banks, North Carolina. It was about 2:30 a.m. in the morning, and the weather was pretty bad. At this point, she was behind schedule because of the storm, and she had to take a detour near Roanoke that put her on a remote 2-lane road. Suddenly, a creature she described as half wolf and half monkey ran into the road in front of her. It stood about 6 feet tall, had pointy ears, a flat snout, and a long, thin tail. It was covered in short black fur. She said that it was very muscular, but also very thin. She said it was definitely not a wolf and that it seemed more cat-like, even though it also resembled a human man when it stood on 2 legs. The Spooky Appalachia site says that the creature simply walked to the other side of the road, as if the woman wasn't even there. But other sites like deathcookie.com claim the devil monkey actually jumped over her car as if it wasn't there, without breaking stride. Either way, a few weeks later, livestock in the area began to disappear, and then family pets. A couple from Shawsville, about 27 miles away from Roanoke, reported that shortly after spotting the devil monkey in their yard, their beloved German Shepherd went missing. I happened to find a really detailed article titled Devil Monkey, Bigfoot's Vicious Cousin, by the German Network for Cryptozoology, that had pages of witness reports. One was shared by Paulette Boyd, who began collecting devil monkey stories after her parents' encounter in 1959. This was the late 1990s. A young family had bought a trailer in the Boyd's neighborhood in Saltsville as a weekend retreat. As they approached the neighborhood one weekend, the father screeched to a stop to avoid hitting a bizarre creature that was hopping across the road. Its back was about 3 feet high while it was on all fours. Its back legs, which were much longer than its front ones, were muscular and kangaroo-like. But all 4 feet had visible sharp claws. It had pointed ears and a long muzzle, and its entire body was covered in a shaggy gray fur. It also had a very long hairless tail. They said that if it had stood on just 2 feet, it would have easily been 6 feet tall. But due to the way it moved, they felt like it was older and quite possibly could have been the exact same devil monkey that Paulette's parents had seen 40 years earlier. The DeRuyter roadkill incident is yet another story tied to the devil monkey. In 1996, a woman named Barbara Mullins stopped along Highway 12 near DeRuyter, Louisiana, to examine some really weird roadkill. The creature had primate-like arms and legs with opposable thumbs on its hands and feet. It had the head of a dog, but its body was covered in brownish-black sheep-like wool from head to toe. It was 4 to 5 feet long and weighed about 250 pounds. Mullins took several photographs of the creature, which you can see online. And I have to say, I don't know what the heck that thing is. It looks sort of like an all-dark brown adult-sized collie, but its legs and fur are definitely weird. The DeQuincy News published an article about the incident and even went so far as to ask if it could be a chupacabra. But many cryptozoologists, and even just regular people, noted that it looked far more like a devil monkey. The Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries claimed, after looking only at the photos and not the actual carcass, that it was simply a Pomeranian. But the DeRuyter roadkill photos still spark debate about how odd they are. Also that same year, according to mysteriesofcanada.com, a woman named Debbie Cross was watching TV in her Duncansville, Ohio living room on the evening of June 27th. Her home was in a pretty rural spot, at the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. All of a sudden, her dogs began barking at something in the yard, so she got up to look at who or what had caught their attention. She turned her porch light on and was startled to see a very strange animal staring at her from about 30 feet away. It was standing at the edge of her pond. Cross said, quote, "It was about 3 to 4 feet tall and gray in color. It had large dark eyes and rounded ears extended above the head. It had really long arms and a short tail. It made a gurgling sound." She watched it as it not only skipped across her lawn, but also walked on 2 legs and balanced itself on its front knuckles when it was down on all 4s. She said that it walked across a barbed wire fence with no problem and let out several screeches before it left her property. The devil monkey sightings continued into the 2000s as well, with one as recent as 2018. On September 9, 2001, in Danville, New Hampshire, a witness claimed to see a giant black monkey 8 times in a 2-week period. According to the German Network for Cryptozoology article, in the mid-2010s, 2 Cree sisters in Jackhead, Manitoba, saw a 4-foot-tall creature with large shoulders, brown hair, and a long tail cross the Manitoba Highway. And the last sighting I'm going to tell you all about happened in Kentucky in 2018. Now, just to be clear, if you have the time and you want to check out our sources, there are hundreds of encounter stories to read. So this probably isn't the very last one. The witness, who chose to go by Rocky 5, was driving on Highway 728 in Edmonson County, Kentucky, one night in August. He saw a creature covered in white fur standing at the side of the road. He said, quote, "I got closer and seen it was on its hind legs. It was tall, maybe 6 to 6.5 feet tall and solid white. It looked like it was well groomed, but I think it was in sort of a fear reflex, 'cause it never moved and its face was stuck in a snarl or grimace. I did notice its large canines, and its tail was showing above its head and bent like a monkey's. It had beautiful fur, a pinkish tan face, but I didn't notice the eyes. It had muscular legs, not like a man's, and a lean torso. I didn't notice the ears." End quote. Rocky 5 was pretty unnerved by it and drove straight home without stopping. Devil monkey sightings span the entire United States and Canada, which of course begs the question, are primatologists wrong? Is there some sort of monkey species that did migrate north from South America and find refuge in our forests? For many of the witnesses, their encounters are something that they'd like to forget because of how strange they were. Not quite a Bigfoot and not quite a dogman. The devil monkey is in a category all by itself. And as far as I know, the Derrida roadkill has never been figured out.
There's 2 things that I find really interesting about these devil monkey sightings. And the first is that the majority of them are on roads. They're on roadways. And this thing is either crossing the road or standing on the side of the road.
That does seem to be the case.
And it's like it's being moved out of its territory, obviously.
Right. Perhaps it is being forced out in some kind of way for whatever reason we don't know about.
Right. And the second thing that I find so interesting is that it doesn't fit into a Bigfoot category exactly, and it doesn't fit into a dogman category. It's a hybrid almost of everything, and throw in a little kangaroo too.
Yeah, it sounds as though it could be a cryptid, but as far as Bigfoot, it doesn't resemble it in any kind of way.
Well, other than it sometimes monkey-like, and sometimes people say Bigfoot are more ape-like than human-like, depending on the story.
Right. But those are 10 feet, 12 feet tall, some of them, unless it's a juvenile. And this thing seems more kangaroo-like, except for the fact that they say it has a monkey face to it.
And a bushy tail.
And a bushy tail at times.
Right. How come sometimes it has a big bushy tail and then other times it has a tail like a possum?
That I don't know. I've never seen one. Perhaps it's a subspecies.
Yeah, who knows? But they're all over North America. I mean, it went from one coast to the other and, from north to south all the way up into Canada. It's pretty crazy.
They're definitely unusual.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as far as the roadkills that they did find, when the officials from Fish and Wildlife said that it was a Pomeranian, well, they don't grow that big and they certainly don't bounce on their tails.
I would hope not.
It really does sound like a kangaroo to me. But you can't mistake that monkey face. There's no way. I mean, I would say, if I didn't know any better, it's a kangaroo. But with the monkey face, it just throws me right off.
I know. It's definitely bizarre.
It sure is. Well, perhaps someday someone will catch one alive. Perhaps in a trap. Or find one dead in their yard.
Or on the side of the road, since that's where they seem to like to hang out.
Yeah. And we'll get to the bottom of this mystery once and for all.
Yeah. And all of you listening, if you want to read more, Wes had mentioned there are hundreds of accounts. Like, we could have gone on for hours with all the different accounts. So if you'd like to read more, you can check out our sources in the show notes. The German Network for Cryptozoology article was pages and pages of encounters.
Yes, very interesting. Go check it out for yourselves. And with that said, thank you once again for joining us. And we'll see you all next week for an all-new episode of Where Our Minds Wander.
See you soon. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to traveling with you again to the places where our minds wander.
If you like what you heard, please take a moment and provide us with a 5-star rating and a comment on your favorite listening platform. It really helps us move up the list and become more visible on the podcast charts so new people can find us.
And thank you all for your continued support.
See you next week for an all-new episode.